And this is different than anything, any clinic around.
Workouts that are tailored for her, and that really makes a difference.
Really personal. I've gotten way more mobile, stronger, flexible. Just everything just improves me to the next level.
Welcome to the On Cue Performance Therapy Podcast, where we push sports performance and physical therapy to its apex. We change the game by bringing together the brightest minds in the field to offer best practices and question how things are done today. I'm your host, Mike Quintas, physical therapist and expert in sports orthopedics. I'm living my dream and opened a clinic that unites all elements of sports medicine under one roof to drive recovery and performance outcomes. What's up, guys? Welcome to the On Cue Performance Therapy Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Quintas. First, I have to ask you guys one small favor. You guys know I appreciate you, and I would love the appreciation in return. It would mean the absolute world to me if you guys could leave a review. And it doesn't have to be anything long-winded, just a sentence, maybe two, and share your thoughts, please. See how in the show notes below. And today, I'm joined by Jordan Quinones, the head of sports performance at the Physical Therapy and Wellness Institute in Newtown Square, where he oversees the sports performance and personal training division of the practice. Jordan played football in high school and went on to play at Trinity College, where he majored and then began a career in computer science. His true passion then led him to his current career in sports performance training, where he now utilizes his skill set to work with his clients in a unique setting where physical therapy meets sports performance. What's up, Jordan?
How you doing, Mike?
Doing great, man. Thanks for coming on. This is pretty neat. As a lot of you know, Jordan and I work together, and it's been awesome. It's been a fun ride.
Yes, it has.
So thanks again for joining us. Let's dive into this, man. I feel like we've talked about this for a while now.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go back a little bit. I mean, we met at a Starbucks.
Yes.
That one day, a long time ago.
Fateful afternoon. Yep.
Saw the twinkle in your eye,
Mm-hmm.
and we dreamed this up. We kind of put it together, and I got pictures of us standing in this empty place, and so here it is, and now
it's here. Yeah.
We spoke about doing a podcast, so this is neat, dude. So
It really is. Thanks again for having me on. But yeah, to kind of see it, from where it started to where it is now, and the work we put in, and the people we've helped along the way it's really amazing. So thanks again.
Yeah, thank you, man. And this is about you. So tell me about your journey, man. So I dove into that a little bit here very briefly. Football player, computer.
Just say athlete.
Athlete.
Don't put me in a bucket. You know what I mean?
All right, I got athlete. Computer science.
Yep, for sure.
And definitely an intellect. Went after what you love. CrossFit a little bbit there, and we ended up here. So fill me in. Tell me about that journey.
Yeah. So obviously, played all the major sports kind of growing up. I played baseball, football, ran track. I wrestled for a while. I just loved athletics. I love sport. Love playing basically. As I grew and got more into the sport, I obviously got recruited to Trinity College. However, when I got to Trinity College, great experience. However, in a liberal arts school, you're limited as far as what you can kind of choose for a career or major from there. So I ended up in computer science, which I still have a passion for that to this day. I still use those skills here and there when needed. So out of college, I found a software engineering job at a company in Horsham, where I worked for 3 or 4 years. But I always kind of had that desire to train myself and others. I was getting requests at the time from my friends who knew that I was still kind of like into working out. At this point, they're kind of starting to get out of shape a little bit. So I was like, all right, I'm kind of working with them, helping them out. Like, I wonder if I could make this a full-time thing. To that point, I had very little kind of like knowledge of a traditional strength conditioning background, just as far as like what I picked up along the way and what I got from my strength coaches in football. Had a short stint as a intern for strength conditioning at my college, which I loved, obviously. But again, there was nothing to really follow on that path, right? There's nothing to really continue it. It was just kind of like a for fun kind of thing. So afterwards, in my career, eventually I heard of an opportunity through my roommate at the time. I lived in Manayunk. So I was still in my early 20s at this time, kind of just finding my way in the world, right? So
Like many of us have.
right, of course. So he tells me about someone that he knows opening up a CrossFit gym. So my sister at the time was very into this. My best friend at the time was very into CrossFit at the time. It was like 2000, I guess 11 or something like that. It was very much when CrossFit's like very hot, right? So I was like, oh, this looks awesome. Looks very fun. It's exciting, big group of people, right? So I met the owner at the time, got my level 1 certification for that, started coaching classes, right? So basically, I left my software engineer career, which is like a well-paying job, to be a part-time coach. Where I was getting up at 5, 6 a.m. to go coach these classes. So for me, it was a very, very big risk. But immediately, I almost knew that was the right choice because I was just happy going to work every day as opposed to miserable. So that was a nice change.
You're a calculated guy. Let's be honest.
Right.
So for you to leave, a 9 to 5, dress shoes.
Yep. Benefits.
Which I know you love. You love the dress shoes.
Yeah. I was going to AstraZeneca. I was going like to these pharmaceutical companies, like installing software. I was a different person. It was insane. You should see me back then.
I got to get pictures. You have to get pictures. Your first day at work.
It was something, man.
So I mean, that's a risk, man. That's a big time risk, and not that we didn't take a risk in putting this together.
Sure.
But to do that, like, what drove you?
So I think what drove me was not feeling fulfilled day to day, and I think what really drove me then and drives me now still is the desire to help people, to make them better and to make them to see the best version of themselves. That's something I try to do for myself as well, and being able to kind of like facilitate their growth, not only as an athlete but as a person, day to day. And I think the strength conditioning world, the PT world, is really fulfilling when it comes to that. You really can see the benefit you're doing or you're having on someone's life. It's not just their athletic career. It can really change their lives. Truly.
I would say that's something very special about Jordan. Here, my 2 cents on this is that Jordan interacts differently than I've seen any other strength coach when it comes to his how much he cares for the clients, and that's special. Not sure if I told you that before, but that's pretty cool.
Appreciate that.
Of course, man. So, all right, how did you know you could actually do it? Like, right? So, like, all right, I love to work out. Train my friends, and now, like, all right, Jordan, you're in charge.
Yeah. I didn't know, I guess, was the answer. I kind of was hoping at that point that it was the right move, but it was almost like a fake it till you make it kind of thing. Like, I was like, all right, I'm gonna keep believing myself in here because I really have no other choice at this point. I'm not going back to the 9 to 5 grind, so to speak. And I really think I have something here. So, I guess I kind of knew that it was the right choice when people kind of started like thanking me, for like even getting like a PR on a back squat, like stuff like that, like little things. Like I was like, all right, that felt really good, to help someone get to that point. Not that I'm the only reason, but I at least, told them what to do that day. Something like that, so that kind of really stuck with me, that feeling. And then I was like, all right, how do I get better at this? How do I learn more? How do I connect with more people? So that was kind of got the ball rolling, and then, eventually led to this point.
Sure. So let's fast forward to that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So you're kind of at a CrossFit gym is how I would describe it.
Yep. Oh,
and
sure.
We have this meeting and we talk about how our kind of our dreams may align,
right,
or could align in terms of our vision. So tell me about that. Tell me about that. What that risk was like for you, and what kind of drove you to doing what you're doing right now. Not so much that drove you away, but drove
Sure.
you towards.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even say away. It was just another path, another part of the same path, So, CrossFit, kind of taught me a lot about movement. I got to work with a lot of people. I got to, again connect with different people. They're still friends to this day. And basically, learning how to work with different populations is immensely beneficial, from old to young, athlete to non-athlete, that kind of thing. But as far as what really kind of drove the change, I guess, in direction would be meeting like an athlete, right? So one kind of athlete, the same one that kind of connected us, right? So once you kind of work with one of those kids, you really enjoy the experience of someone that you've been in that situation as an athlete yourself. As far as like, man, when I was this age, I had no guidance, right? I was back in the day, I was looking at, bodybuilding magazines still, like doing like 4x10 of everything that I saw, which absolutely had maybe a little bit, but not a ton of benefit athletically.
Sure. Yeah.
So while I may have looked athletic, I really was not. You know what I mean? So, and also the kind of just guidance to have that confidence, for yourself when you're on the field, when you are performing. So being able to kind of work with the athlete at that time, at that point in his career, like 8th, 9th grade, and seeing him grow, and then you get 1, you get 2, right? That kind of led me to a point where I was like, okay, this is what I really, really love, right here. Like, how do I build on this? Not that, and then it wasn't that CrossFit couldn't provide that. It was just like, okay, how do I make this really my thing, like really my jam here? So that's kind of led to our meeting pretty much.
We all go through different periods of development in our career where it's like these small transitions or major transitions.
Yep.
Where we're looking to sharpen the sword.
That's a great way to describe it.
Right.
Yep.
And that's how I visualize this for both of us, actually.
Yep.
Yeah, I completely agree. Same page. So tell me about what's different about being in this kind of environment where you are now,
right,
compared to before.
I have to wear real clothes now, which is terrible. No.
You like wearing the skinny pants?
Yeah, I like wearing gym clothes every day. That was amazing. No. The biggest difference, I think, is the professionalism is one, but I think the how do I put it, the value, I guess, that's you can provide, and the confidence that the kids have and the parents have that they're getting the best possible service in a facility like this with the talent that we have here, I think is the biggest difference, so to speak. And then having the ability to kind of have it be my own version of that, so everybody has their kind of certain style, right, as far as how they like to see things run, but I think I got to had the chance to put my own kind of stamp on a sports performance offering in an environment that has, for athletes, a wide range of services here that really can make them the best possible athlete or version of themselves. So that's the biggest difference.
You've been around strength conditioning for some time now, and like you said, you had done it, been around it in college.
Yep.
How often, this has popped into my head, how often will the head strength coach attempt to influence others' programs, right? You know what I mean? Like how often is their program actually influencing others, as opposed to, go ahead, I'm letting you run this one all by yourself. Because I mean, if you think about it, you've had the opportunity here, like you made your own wheel, like you did. This is your baby, right? I never sat there, and no one. And nor do we have the credibility to do so, to tell you, hey, you should do it this way, right, or do it that way. What was that like, and your experiences in the past too?
As far as working under someone else's structure versus my own, essentially. So I guess it's just different. It's just different as opposed to when you're working under someone else's kind of like structure. You learn. There's certain rules you're kind of playing by, certain things that you learn and you like, and certain things like, maybe I wouldn't do it that way. So it's just kind of like that. It's never necessarily like good versus bad. It's just different. There's probably always going to be a way that an individual would slightly change something when they do it, their way. Not to say that it's drastically different than what it was, but it was just the way that I felt comfortable, and comfortable for me allows me to be myself, right, and provide a fun experience to the athletes or whoever I'm working with at the time, right? I'm not overthinking about like some sort of perfect, structure or like sets and reps. I'm trying to really meet them in the middle, essentially, every day. So,
and that's what's unique, I think, is that you're attempting to meet them in the middle each time. That's special. Your interaction with the athletes is super unique. Mm-hmm. I watch you sit there sometimes with your arms folded or on your hips, and he stares, and he just like dives into like their form. It's almost like it's kind of cool to watch, actually. First I thought it was creepy, but but he's in he's in the zone. So tell me about like the passion for technique and form. If there's one attribute of yours I like admire is like your diligence in like form, in cueing that. It's not over the top.
Right.
Sometimes they make the mistake and you tell them later, but you're on it.
Right.
So where does that come from?
I just think that, again, as a athlete myself, and kind of dealing with a couple, bumps and bruises along the way from sport, right? Whether it's from not being strong enough in a certain area or not moving well enough at the time, I think that I put too much weight or importance on the ability to move weight, or the strength aspect of it, and I realized the pitfalls of that. So I think when you get especially a group of high school age kids, they want to lift heavy weight, they want to bench every day, that kind of stuff, and you have to kind of relate to them the importance of moving well and the longevity that creates in their athletic career, right? So I think that message for me was lost back in the day. So a lot of this stuff is me just kind of making up for my own mistakes.
Amen. I could not agree with that more. Like, I wish I had this.
Right. That's a lot of this is that. But I don't think that's a bad thing, right? It's just like, man, I want to give them what I wish I had, whether it's the knowledge, whether it's the guidance here, whether it's like this movement, this day, right? So the importance on movement and form comes from that. And then the timing of the cueing and stuff. I mean, you could go on about that for a while, but the long story short of it is it just takes time. It depends on the individual, and it takes time to know like when and where to step in, right? A lot of times I want to have them almost mess up at first, right? Like I don't want to be like too overbearing where they can't experiment, right? Especially as young kids, like they need to feel a movement. Like you can't like show them and say X, Y, Z, do this, and your knee does this, and they'll be like, oh, I got it. No, they're gonna mess it up, and that's okay. You know what I mean? As long as they don't have like 100 pounds on their back, that's okay, right? So you just got to know. You got to know what the movement is. You got to know the context, and that's for me. That's where my intensity comes at the time, because I'm just like so in that moment to make sure that, all right, he's on rep 4 right now. He's doing a goblet squat. He's done this 100 times. He's not doing it well right now. I'm gonna finish it out, and then I'll tell him afterwards. Where if it's like a kid that is second day in there, and we're still working on like the essentials of that movement, I might stop mid-set and be like, hey, remember, make sure we don't do this. Let's do this. So it really just depends on the athlete and the desired effect, I guess.
You mentioned movement and building athletes. I would say here that you help people move better, especially young athletes in particular. You don't necessarily make a baseball player the best baseball player ever. You make them better athletes.
Right.
And we've had so many hours probably of discussion about just moving better. Like I could have a softball. You could have a softball player in here, a football player, and at different levels nonetheless, and like a track athlete. And it would not be a problem getting them to do this workout.
Right. I think what it comes down to is 80% of the stuff that we do is beneficial for any athlete. Doesn't matter who it is, right? And a lot of times, even the ones that are really good and think they need to be like super specialized and be doing some sort of mobility circuit that's tailored just to baseball, just for pitchers, just for most of the times even they probably need a good dose of just like the fundamentals, let's call them. So a lot of times I'm doing 80% of the stuff that's all the same. Maybe get to a point where you have an athlete that has a specific consideration, and that's where you will kind of change up one or two things maybe in the workout. But most of the times they're doing the same thing, and maybe most of the time maybe you'll frame it, the context for them differently. Like, hey, this will help you on the field doing this, or hey, this will help your swing in golf. So you could kind of like communicate with them so they get it and they connect with that movement a little bit more. But they're doing the same stuff. Everybody needs to know how to run, jump, land. Like that's just like a human being, So the more I get into it, the more it is like, hey, let's just move well. And move well for me doesn't mean just like look good doing it. Let's be able to produce some power. Let's be able to absorb some force. Let's be athletic even if we don't need to compete in anything. So I do that with my general clients too now. At lower doses, obviously, but I think the quality of movement and being able to control your body and have ownership of movement is so important. Not just to be able to perform in the field, but just to like live your life the way you want to, right?
Sure.
So
without a doubt, that's probably one of the other cool things that you do here. When parents walk in, they'll ask, or anybody for that matter, will ask, Johnny's a baseball player, so is that something you work with? And I can like just see Jordan's like a little smirk, and he's like, we work with everybody.
Right.
Everybody needs to move.
Right, but it also depends on the parent too, because I mean sometimes you have to speak their language. Like, of course we'll make them better at baseball, like of course like the stuff we do here like is tailored to the baseball athlete, and it is, right? But at the same time, if that kid can't touch his toes, he's doing the basic stuff until he can, so it's like you need to let the parent know like, hey, yes, absolutely, we're going to make him a better athlete, whatever sport it is, but we are not going to cut corners when it comes to movement quality. So that's a touchy line sometimes when it comes to certain situations, but you try to be as upfront and honest as you can without we're not sticking to your guns, without kind of going back on what you actually hold true and important. So.
Without a doubt, you didn't say, this is going to help every single person that walks in. This is going to help Johnny be a better baseball player.
Of course.
It's also going to help Cynthia be a better volleyball player.
It's also going to make them a better person. They're going to be confident. They're going to learn how to just, hold themselves in high, with some confidence without being a jerk, right? Like, so it's that side too that I think that parents especially have come back and told me like he's just more confident now. Like, it's not even that he's a better player. It's just he just holds himself differently. You know what I mean? Not in like a cocky way. He's just feels better about himself or herself. Like that's almost a more fulfilling thing for me than anything else.
The groups were always somewhere between 4 and 6.
Yep.
Now it's like even less now,
right.
2 to 3, and it's never always the same 3 kids or 4 kids. I think that's super cool that I don't go work out with the same 3 to 4 kids every time.
Right.
It's different people.
Right.
I think that's just better people, like you said, right?
Of course. Yeah. I think when people are exposed to different, obviously, personalities and kids, they have to kind of be a version of themselves they know is like maybe the right way, air quotes, like, so it kind of makes them, and if there's like an older kid and he is kind of put in like a leader role, which I let happen sometimes, I think it's cool to play with the dynamic of the group. Like, okay, there's a younger kid here who just started, there's an older kid who moves really well, and I know he'll probably step up and like help this kid out. And then, 10 minutes later on a sled push, the older kid's cheering the other one, so it kind of naturally happens that way if you create the positive environment so they can kind of like be themselves, but also know that, hey, they're held to this kind of standard of behavior and movement,
I think I'll throw my own little pitch in here. I think doing that in a PT clinic, a physical therapy clinic, also adds like a degree of professionalism, hopefully.
Sure.
And
absolutely, yeah.
As opposed to like, we're roughhousing in the gym,
right?
Or guys being guys in the gym,
Right. I think the setting definitely creates a certain standard of behavior, right? For sure. And movement, I guess you could say. Yeah.
So tell me about, last question for you, resources that you have in this facility that entice young athletes and what that's like compared to maybe other places that you've either worked at or been at or seen.
Resources is a tricky word there. I mean, as far as, so resources can be many things, right? So as far as like equipment goes, like I don't think that the equipment sells a program, right? I don't think like, we have a certain equipment, like let's look how cool this is. Right? You have to be a human at the end of the day, and you have to connect with that person, and they have to trust you, right? This is a game of trust, essentially, right? They have to trust that you're going to guide them to where they want to go. So as far as like resources that are different, I think it's really the biggest difference is obviously the PT side, right? There is this element of like, hey, if you have some sort of, tightness in your scap or your back, right? We can check that out and we can get you right back whether working out or performing right away. There's none of that like, my back's been hurting me. I'm going to go see my trainer at school. I'm going to do this. I'll be back in 2 weeks. Like, no, none of that. Like the PT see you work out, I see you work out. We communicate directly immediately. You get seen that day or the next day. We know exactly how to tackle that particular problem. And then you're still training throughout that. Like it's not like you tweak your shoulder here and you can't do anything for 2 weeks. No, we're still working your legs, but we're doing stability stuff around the scap, and then you're good, right? So that is the resource, as I would call it. That's the biggest draw for newer athletes, I think. And then the other bigger draw is just the history that you've built, so that you're kind of like, your resume of sorts of the athletes that you already helped. I don't think like, again, any equipment's going to be the sell. I don't think you have this brand new barbell and like athletes are flocking to your door. That doesn't work like that. It's like you have to meet them. You have to talk to them. They have to trust you. They look in your eye and believe you. or else they're out of here. You know what I mean? And parents are the same way. They see right through it, right? So you can't be fake. You can't, be a snake oil salesman. You have to be true to what you actually believe in, and they either like it or not. But if they don't, you know what I mean? You don't want that anyway, because then they're not gonna stick with you. They're not gonna get the results they want, because they're always kind of like on the back. But as long as you're honest with who you are and in your approach and what you provide, you'll get the right people, and you'll guide them to a great place.
Those are great points. The way it works in this clinic, and you're a monstrous piece of this, is that people walk in for PT, in my experience is what I've seen, and they look over on the other side where you're at with the turf and the dumbbells and kettlebells and and everything, and they're like, whoa, what's that over there?
Right.
Are we going to go on that side? I want to go over there.
Right. But a lot of stuff is it's not even like, it's just new spins on, like they've seen a kettlebell move before, but like maybe not carried this way with this other thing, or maybe not combined with this other element, like with this jump or this med ball throw. So it's really that. It's like the creativity behind what's going on with things they've already seen. Like, oh, I've seen a medicine ball, but I didn't know you do that with that. Oh, that looks like fun. So that kind of excitement, you're trying to get like a new spin on things you've seen before, that's just all from the creativity aspect of it, and basically, again, and not being afraid, which again, we talked about, kind of the shackles being off in this environment, not being afraid to, experiment with some movements that will help athletes. Maybe it's not the standard, straight bar deadlift, right? But once they do it once, like, oh, I get this. And now for a while, I had them warming up barefoot, which is not that crazy. But, and at first they're like, oh man, why are we doing this barefoot? Like whatever. And then they're like, can we take our shoes off? Can we take our shoes off? So it's like, now they love it. So stuff like that, you show it to them once. At first they're like, it's almost like a fear thing. Like, I don't want to do that. I'm not going to look cool. It's like, dude, no one cares about your look, first of all. Second of all, just trust me on this, right? And then they're doing it now. They want to do it all the time, that kind of thing. So, that's a really fun part about all this, for sure.
The relationships you're building.
Yeah.
That's what I enjoy the most about being a physical therapist, and leading and other things. But really, the relationships we build with our clients and patients,
yep.
Is what drives me most, and I see that in you as well. Jordan, thank you for your time, man. This is awesome. Part 2's coming. I'd like to dive into programming. I really want to pick your mind on programming.
Sure.
And I think another big thing that I think our listeners would really like to listen to would be the understanding of how and what and where kids deal with things.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things I've learned for sure, is the biggest thing that I picked up on is the kind of challenges of the youth athlete in a highly competitive area for youth athletics, and kind of what they go through on a day-to-day basis, what's expected of them, and it's a crazy world out there for youth athletics, especially right now as things are either being canceled or being packed to the brim of activity. It's like an extreme either or. It's either nothing or like, hey, you're playing 8 games today. So absolutely, I would love to get into that.
Hell yeah. All right. Please share with our audience your contact information. What's the best way for our audience to get in touch with you?
So my Instagram is jq.training. That's my handle for all the social media stuff, but mostly on Instagram. And then my email is jordan.quinones at ivrehab.com. And yeah, those are my 2 main ways.
Heck yeah. Awesome. All right, Jordan, part 2 coming next.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for listening to the On Cue Performance Therapy Podcast. If you like this episode, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It would mean so much to me if you could leave us a 5-star review so more listeners like you could get this important information. See you next time.